More satellites do not mean a safer orbit. Instinct suggests the opposite. More objects in the sky mean more eyes, more connections, more control. It seems logical to assume that if space is filled with technology, it must also be more orderly. And yet one constraint immediately breaks that illusion. In low Earth orbit, there is no such thing as traffic slowing down as density increases. There is only velocity, inertia, and ruthless geometry. To understand why greater access does not automatically mean greater safety, you have to look at low Earth orbit for what it really is. It is not an abstract sky. It is a finite volume, a three-dimensional ring surrounding Earth, where objects are not suspended in place but slicing through space at roughly 7 or 8 kilometers per second. At those speeds, a bolt becomes a bullet. A flake of paint becomes a threat. A collision is not a fender bender, it is an explosion of fragments, a force multiplier for future problems. Over the last few years, access to space has become cheaper, more frequent, more normal. The visible result is the explosion of satellite constellations. Thousands of spacecraft built for global internet coverage, Earth observation, communications, tracking, and services that until recently required impossible infrastructure. It is the seductive promise of orbital democratization. But democratization, inside a ballistic environment, does not automatically create rules. It creates density, and density creates intersections. On a road, when traffic increases, you slow down. In orbit, speed is not something you choose. You only choose it during the design phase, through altitude and inclination. After that, physics takes the wheel. Every satellite follows a trajectory dictated by the energy it carries. If it needs to avoid something, it cannot simply brake. It can slightly alter its orbit through maneuvers that consume fuel, time, and operational margin. Every correction becomes a debt you will eventually have to pay. At the end of the satellite's life, when it must deorbit or move into a graveyard orbit and you discover there is not enough propellant left. What looks like an engineering detail becomes a social law of space. Avoiding collisions today can mean creating debris tomorrow. There is another illusion as well. From Earth, orbit appears enormous. And it is. But enormous does not mean infinite. The most desirable orbital bands are few. Some altitudes offer low latency, others reduce atmospheric drag. Others guarantee repeatable passes over certain latitudes. Constellations naturally cluster into these niches, like cities growing along a river. And as cities grow, so does the probability of accidents. The difference is that in orbit, accidents do not remain local. Fragments do not stay where they were created. They spread along orbital paths, disperse over time, cross different planes. It is as if a single collision on a highway suddenly produced thousands of shards bouncing across every lane, at every hour, for months. This is where the most unsettling paradox emerges. Most debris cannot even be seen. Not because it is invisible, but because there is simply too much of it, and much of it is too small. An object 10 centimeters wide can usually be tracked reasonably well. 1 centimeter is already far more difficult. Below that, you are often guessing. And yet even a fragment only a few millimeters across, moving at orbital velocity, can puncture, fracture, cripple. Orbital safety is therefore not just a question of how many things we launch into space, but how much ignorance we tolerate about what is already there. More objects also mean more noise. More signals to separate, more trajectories to calculate, more statistical uncertainty. And uncertainty is the enemy of decision-making. When a control center receives a conjunction warning, it must evaluate probabilities, margins, consequences. Maneuver too often, and resources are wasted while the satellite's lifespan shrinks. Maneuver too little, and the risk of impact grows. But the real twist is this. Many maneuvers are triggered not by certain danger, but by probabilistic danger. As constellations expand, warnings multiply. Decisions multiply. Opportunities for human error, delays, and misunderstandings between operators multiply as well. And in an environment where a single second can mean kilometers of separation, delay is not an inconvenience. It is a physical variable. There is also a governance problem disguised as a technological one. At sea, shared rules exist. In the air, there are corridors and controllers. In orbit, the idea of right-of-way is far more fragile. Who is supposed to move? Who bears responsibility? What happens when two satellites belong to different operators, under different jurisdictions, using different procedures and different levels of transparency? Even if everyone wanted to cooperate, there is no single traffic board displaying identical data to all participants. There are catalogs, surveillance networks, models, estimates. Tiny discrepancies in data can produce massive differences in predictions. And when predictions diverge, the decision becomes political. Who trusts whom? The most counterintuitive point is that the technology allowing us to launch more satellites is not the same technology required to control them better. Reusable rockets, industrial satellite manufacturing, electronic miniaturization. All of this lowers the barrier to entry and accelerates the pace of deployment. But control requires something else entirely: global sensor networks, common standards, clear accountability, shared procedures, debris removal capability, economic incentives that reward responsible behavior. These are invisible infrastructures, expensive, slow, difficult to build. So while the spectacular side of progress races forward, the administrative and physical foundations of safety lag behind. The result is an ecosystem where the speed of growth outpaces the speed of coordination. And yet low Earth orbit is not an infinite resource. It resembles a shared commons more than an endless frontier, like a groundwater reserve or a fishing ground. If too many actors exploit it without strong rules, the resource degrades. The difference is that orbital degradation may not be gradual. It can become nonlinear. One collision creates fragments. Fragments increase the probability of more collisions. More collisions create more fragments. At some point, the system can enter a cascade. It does not have to happen everywhere. It only needs to occur at a heavily used altitude, inside a popular inclination, along an orbital lane, crossed by many spacecraft, and suddenly that region becomes more dangerous for everyone, including those who caused nothing. This scenario has a name that sounds like science fiction, yet it is grounded in physics. The Kessler syndrome, the possibility that a high enough density of objects could make collisions self-sustaining, turning an orbital region into a persistent field of shrapnel. It is not an inevitable destiny. It is a growing risk. And in engineering, risk is not an opinion. It is a combination of probability and consequence. Increase the number of objects, and you increase the number of possible interactions. Worse still, the number of interactions grows faster than the number of objects themselves. It is a mathematical explosion. 1,000 satellites are not merely twice the risk of 500. In certain dynamics, they represent a qualitative leap. This is where orbital crowding becomes narratively simple yet technically brutal. The thumbnail image is easy, a sky filled with dots. But the real twist is that the greatest threat is not the large, visible dots. It is the orbital dust produced when those dots fail. And eventually, something does fail. Not because of malice, because of statistics, because every sufficiently complex system, given enough events, eventually encounters its accident. Public discussions often describe space junk as though it were a pile of scrap we could clean up with some giant orbital vacuum cleaner. Reality is harsher than that. Cleaning up debris does not simply mean capturing an object. It means doing so safely, without generating new fragments, without losing control, without triggering collisions during rendezvous. It means selecting targets that actually matter, because it is impossible to clean up everything. It means financing missions that generate no immediate profit, only a reduction in long-term systemic risk. And here another fracture appears. The economy rewards launching satellites that sell services, not removing debris that sells future safety. Without incentives and accountability, cleanup remains symbolic while production continues uninterrupted. The most delicate reality is that many constellations are designed around the promise of deorbiting at the end of their operational life. But deorbiting is itself a maneuver, and maneuvers require a healthy spacecraft, power, propellant, and communication. Every failure that leaves a satellite mute or immobile transforms it from a controllable participant into an obstacle. Even a tiny failure rate, multiplied across thousands of spacecraft, produces dozens or hundreds of non-maneuverable objects. And non-maneuverable objects are the most dangerous of all, because they cannot cooperate. In a system built on cooperation, even a minority of non-cooperative actors raises the cost for everyone else. It is a game theory problem, except the pieces move at kilometers per second. Orbital control, then, is not simply a matter of more radar or more artificial intelligence. Even with perfect predictions, the same questions remain. Who is obligated to do what? And when? According to which communication standards? Without a framework of rules and responsibilities, even the best information becomes nothing more than an alarm nobody can translate into coordinated action. It is like having perfect weather forecasts but no evacuation procedures, no authority structure, no trust between neighbors. And yet precisely because the problem is visible and immediate, it is also solvable. The hypnotic part of this story is that low Earth orbit is slowly becoming a place. Not just an abstract, up there, but a place with traffic, infrastructure, desirable zones, localized risks, global consequences. And whenever a place becomes inhabited, urban planning becomes necessary. In orbit, urban planning means mandatory and verifiable end-of-life standards, with real penalties for leaving uncontrolled objects behind. It means sharing maneuver data quickly and transparently, because a satellite changing orbit without warning is no different from a truck switching lanes in the dark. It means designing spacecraft that, if control is lost, still possess reliable passive deorbit systems to reduce the time they remain drifting like orbital mines. It also means recognizing that not all satellites are equal. What matters is where they are, which orbital planes they occupy, how maneuverable they are, how accurately they can be tracked. One orbit can be crowded yet manageable, while another may be less crowded but deeply chaotic, depending on how predictable and cooperative its objects are. Safety depends on more than numbers. It depends on behavior. And in space, behavior is embedded in design and regulation long before it appears in intention. Which brings us back to the original paradox, the one that shatters common intuition. Access to space has expanded like a rising wave, carrying genuine opportunity with it. But controllability does not automatically expand alongside access. Sometimes it grows in the opposite direction, because every new object increases freedom for someone while increasing risk for everyone else. The future of low Earth orbit will not be decided solely by rockets and microchips. It will depend on whether humanity can transform a crowd of trajectories into a community of rules. If we fail, orbit will not simply fill up. It will degrade. It will become noisy, unpredictable, expensive. And when an environment becomes too expensive, you do not stop using it because you choose to. You stop because you can no longer afford to continue. What makes this story truly unsettling is that it does not require an apocalyptic event to change everything. A slow chain of worsening conditions is enough. More alerts, more maneuvers, more fuel consumed, more satellites lost, higher insurance costs, delayed missions, increasingly cautious operators. Orbital safety can erode without exploding overnight. It can become an invisible tax on the future, a friction that slows innovation at the exact moment it appears to accelerate. And so the question hanging in the air, as the sky fills with more and more points of light, is not how many things we will manage to launch. It is how many things we will be capable of managing without turning our most valuable orbit into an environment where risk grows faster than progress. If you made it this far, it means you love curiosity as much as we do. If you enjoyed this journey, leave a like, write a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It is the best way to support what we create. Your presence truly makes a difference. Until the next exploration.